Thanks, Mark. I'm really glad to be here and glad to sit with you all. Glad for the space that we create for each other. Glad for those who are able to join me in practice, yoga practice, and for this time that we have set aside for ourselves for this important work. So, you talk about over this time. Like I think many of you, if not most of you, for the last 18 months, I have spent a lot of time at home. We talked about this in yoga too. And sometimes I just need to get out. And that's how the Parsha starts this week. Lech lecha. Leave. Go. Rabbi Alan Lew of blessed memory, in his book Be Still and Get Going, which is listed in the, I think Adi will put a link to this document in the chat at some point. So it's written down, so don't worry, you'll have it written down. Anyway, in this book, Rabbi Lew talks about meditation as being transformation. That meditation always moves us from one place to another, from unconscious to awareness, he says, from tension to relaxation, from being scattered to being centered, from a sense of God's absence to a sense that God was in this place all along, and I just didn't know. And he also teaches that Torah itself can be looked at as a record of our human encounter with God. And that when human encounters, these are human encounters with what is transcendent. And that these encounters are also about transformation, just like meditation. And that it engages us in the act of becoming who and what we are in the deepest possible sense, by carrying us through this present moment of our experience and into that which is measureless. And leave-taking, apparently, is a prerequisite to any encounter with God. And so that's how this parsha starts. The first words that God speaks to Avraham Avinu are lech lecha, go. And I'll share the verse with you here. Vayomer Adonai el Avram, lech lecha. Lord said to Abram, he was still Abram, go forth, in Robert Alter's translation. Me'artzecha, from your land, umi moladetcha, and your birthplace, umi beit avicha, and your father's house, to the land I will show you. El haaretz asher arecha. Lech lecha. So Rashi says it this way, translated as get thee out. Literally, go for thyself, for your own benefit, for your own good. And this is the part I keyed in on, why I brought Rashi here today, is that he says, there, this place you're going to go to, there I will make of you a great nation. Whilst here, you will not merit the privilege of having children. So there's a reason for going, because when you're there, let me just stop for just a second here. When you are here, I have the sense from what he's saying, if I don't have the merit of and privilege of having, and I'll say metaphorical children or real children, but there's a sense that staying home in my old rote habits is some kind of a dead end. That in some way I'm closed off without access to my own creativity, generativity, renewal. That in some way I may be stuck in old habits. And I'll bring this back up one more time and just go through some of this So me artsecha, go forth from your land. So from your country, from your political systems, and from a mindfulness perspective, I would ask, what is my land like? What is the habitual place where my mind mostly is? What is it like? I think we heard this quote yesterday, but it seems to be coming up recently, of Reb Zalman Schachter Shalomi comparing the mind to tofu, that it takes on the flavor in which it marinates. If my mind marinates in anger, it takes on that flavor. If it marinates in frustration, hopelessness, whatever, it takes on that flavor. Umimoladecha, and your birthplace. This is your birthplace, your family, your kindred, your relations, your cultural systems. The land where your relations live. The village that raised you. Your native culture with all of its richness, but also with its unconscious biases. Mi beit avicha, from your father's house. From the flavor of your childhood home that is still with you. Like, what are your ways of talking at the dinner table that are just like your mom or your dad? Do people talk over each other, or do they politely, give each other a chance to speak? I grew up in the house where it's just a free-for-all. And how easy to fall back into old habits when you go home, go to the family home, get together with relatives, or even when you go back to your own home after a retreat. You may have noticed this if you were in yesterday's retreat. So the Rambam says of all this reason for mentioning, like why all this detail. The reason for mentioning out of your country, your birthplace, your father's house, is that it is difficult for a person to leave the country where you dwell. And Alan Liu says this leave taking is most significant because God is never encountered in the conventional, or in habit. God is encountered in reality, precisely in the ground of being, in our present moment reality. That convention and habit obscure. And this is why we sit. This is the aspect of meditation where we investigate and reveal what is hidden. What is hidden is the true nature of our experience. We cover up the actual experience, sometimes with concepts. For instance, here's my hand. I'm calling it a hand. Hand is the concept. The reality is it's this shape with colors and depth, light, texture, and the accumulation of all of those details are this concept I call hand. When we sit, we get to look at the details. And then the verse ends, El haaretz asher arecha, the land I will show you. And I'm going to say, who is the I? God, or awareness, or da'at, that knowing. When we sit, we can see what is hidden by leaving the habitual, by leaving autopilot. And then it goes on to the next verse. Ve'escha legoy gadol va'avarchecha va'agadla shemecha v'haya bracha, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. So goes the translation by Robert Alter. But notice that I have highlighted this word gadol and ve'agadla, from the root Gimel Dalet Lamed. When I read the traditional translation, I'm going to make your name great. It brings to my mind, just this is my response, is it's kind of a little bit of haughtiness. It's also very comparative, comparing like this nation better than other nations. And it has the sense for me of a static identity. This label of Gadol has a lot of baggage with it. But for some reason this week I'm looking at it and I'll wink at it, and instead of Gadol, maybe make it Gadel, a different form of the verb that really is about growing and raising up like a child is raised. Think of how you are transformed or may be transformed by seeing the land that awareness shows you, how I grow. I'm going to retranslate this verse as a dynamic process. So rather than the safe, comfortable, rote, static state, I will make you a growing nation, but growing in the ways of the inner life. This rereading is keeping in mind Rashi's comment about my access to creativity. And then it says, I will bless you. And from a reading of I will make your name great, I'm going to reread it as I will make your names grow. See the land that awareness shows you. I will make you a growing, generative, creative, changing, dynamic nation. I will make your names grow. So what do I mean by that? That I will have more than one name. When you just call me by one name, it is immediately reductive. Instead, my names will grow, our names will grow. We'll be loving, kind, stubborn, healer, caring, loud and quiet, shy and outgoing. All the names. So let's go ahead and find your seat. Feel your hips heavy in the chair. Allow yourself to sit up straight, and to the best of your ability, allow the spine to get long and the top of the head to raise up, maybe not leaning on anything if possible. Finding any posture that for you is both relaxed and alert, receptive and awake. Maybe feel your feet on the floor and allow your awareness, your mind to drop into the body, into the breath, as if the breath is the most interesting thing. And if you sit every day, can you allow yourself to see this moment as brand new, as different, as not the same as the other days? To be curious about what might be hidden. What is my actual experience today, moment to moment? Here's the inhale, the exhale. And without hanging on to or holding on to the breathing process, maybe just notice when it changes from one to the other, inhale to exhale. Just allowing your breath in its natural rhythm, but observing it. And beginning to notice all the details underneath the sensory details underneath labels of comfort and discomfort. Maybe you feel weight, gravity, pressure, temperature, energy. Always changing, never static. And every time the mind begins to wander, so good to know, all you ever have to do is very gently bring the awareness back to the breath. after a while, if you like, allow the mind to release all of its images and frameworks. Me'artzecha, from the land, mimoladetcha, from your culture, mibeit avicha, from your father's home. Allow the mind to release and fall gently, completely open, like space. Allow any patterns of thought and feeling that rise up to just unwind and release within this utter openness of awareness. Thank you, everybody.
So much, Julie. Beautiful. Friends, we offer an opportunity for providing a compassionate presence now for those of us who are in mourning or observing a yard site. So I invite those of you who are not residing cottage to continue your practice and to create a container of love, compassion, and support for those who are invited to share the name or names of those who are honoring today in the chat box if you'd like. And I invite those of you who are reciting Kaddish or you're observing a yard site, or if you had a recent loss, to join me by rising in body or in spirit for Kaddish. Yit Gadol, Yit Kadash, Shmei Rabbah, Yalma, Yibra, Yirute, Yamlich Malchute, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chaye Kol Beit Israel, Ha'agala, Bisman Kariv Vimru, Amen. Shmei Rabba Mevarach, Le'olam Olameh, Amen. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yistar, V'yitkaved, V'yithalal, Ela min kol birchata v'shemorta v'sivata v'nechamata v'yiram ba'ama v'shalom. Shlama Rabba min Shamaya, Hayim Aleinu Yal Kol Yisrael, V'Ru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Mromav, Yal Shalom Aleinu Yal Kol Yisrael, Yal Kol Yoshvei Israel V'Ru.
Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thank you as always for joining us for practice today. Thanks to our teacher for today, Cantor Julie Newman. Thanks to our sponsor for today, Valerie Russell Emmett, who sponsors our practice today in loving memory of her mother, Lidi Bokara, and her uncle, Albert Bokara. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing. Thanks, of course, as always, to Adi Stein, who holds this space for us with skill and grace every day. And we will be back tomorrow at the same time. For those of you who are leaving us, just a reminder, we will not be meeting live on Thursday, just a reminder of that. But we will be meeting each other day of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we hope to see you then. For those who are able, and if you would like, you're welcome to stay on for conversation with Cantor Julie Newman about this beautiful interpretation and application of the opening passage of Parshat Lech Lecha for our Jewish mindfulness practice. And if you have a question for Julie, or if you have an observation or reflection on the practice, please put it in the chat. Just a lovely, I always love, when we can take passages that people are familiar to people, like this one, Lech Lecha, right, and help people see them and understand them as descriptive of a mindfulness process. And here, just to reiterate, your teaching, I'm going to invite you in to do that, just because I'm going to give a very rudimentary regurgitation of what I heard, which is leaving our native land, our birthplace, our parents' home, is basically I understood you as inviting us to understand that as an invitation to leave the habits of the mind, to recognize and leave the habits of the mind, and to enter into a state of not knowing, and that or to the extent we are able to do that, we can. That's where the Gadel came in, the growing, that we can grow, I guess, in a number of ways. I mean, I was thinking about it, grow in awareness of who we are meant to be as, in our own personal unfolding. Maybe that's the lecha, lech lecha, go to yourself, and also grow in awareness, grow in wisdom. That sound right? Anything you want to add or elaborate
It does.
there?
That that part of the mindfulness process is first to notice that we have habits. That by itself, to notice that, and that there's layers. They're layered. Yes, from my land, like from the not that this is the first layer. It just happens to be the first word in the phrase. From your land through political systems, and that they have an effect on us, whether we know it or not. And I think I know about you, but I've become much more aware of that in the last couple of years, more than in other times of my life, of like, oh yes, I'm part of a system, and I'm involved in it, but it also works on me in ways, in normalizing kinds of behavior. So that I need to know that about myself. And on this day, and thank you, Tish Levy, for making a comment to me here about that, to mention like all the indigenous peoples of America who have died in the last 529 years, that I'm part of that system too. That is part of my land, that I need to know that. I need to know all of that, but also my culture, the riches of my culture, but also the unconscious biases of my culture. And the same thing in my own family. So first know it, start to see it, and then there's that possibility that leaving it gives me a chance to grow, to be more. Not in the sense of self-aggrandizement, not in terms of adding to the ego, which is the way I read this, the pshat version of this, make him a great nation, but that I can be great in names, like that I don't have one name, but I am all of those things. I can be loving and kind and understanding and awkward and shy and outgoing, both, all of those things. And that somehow growing into my full humanity means noticing that I am all of those things, that we are, that the person sitting across from me, that I don't label them. We heard this very well put in yesterday's retreat, that we aren't reductive about calling some, that annoying person, as if as if that's, and I have a friend, a wonderful meditation teacher, reminds me that we are all endlessly annoying and endlessly annoyable. So that's just part of the deal. But that, yeah, I'll stop there.
Great. That's great. There's a question from Lori who writes, midway through the sit, I noticed my downward facing hands were gripping my knees.
Mm.
I flipped my hands to face up and everything changed. Spaciousness. Would you please speak to this embodiment of releasing? Thanks for that, Lori.
Ah, yes, yes. So that's part of our land is our body. You know, our body the mind is part of, and we are constantly giving. There are messages, all of the sensory input from this body, mind, being just part of it. It all affects us. It's all giving us input and communication. And so my hands down, or my hands gripped, or my hands gripped, or my jaw gripped, or my brow furrowed, is sending a message to the nervous system that something's wrong. You know, something's wrong. I'm going to, clench up. But when you did that releasing of the palms, you sent yourself a different message. What a great awareness that you came to there. And so, when you're feeling the grippy way, what's a way to maybe change that if that way of being is not serving you? What a great remedy you found right there. Thank you, Lori. That's a great question.
Right. By the way, I know we've had a lot of frustration with the chat in the last few weeks, and that's the reason that we're changing the Zoom link a week from today. Next week, there'll be a new Zoom link for the daily meditation. Just want to let people know so that don't click on the old links, but you'll get a fresh link every day going forward a week from now. So we're hoping that will solve the problem in terms of that.
And if you click on the old link,
notice
that we're acting habitually.
Yeah, right. That's right. We're leaving that land. We are headed out to something new. Who knows what that new Zoom room will be like?
Oh, and I've noticed that Cheryl Shapiro made a comment in here, a particular song, but it's based on the poem by Zelda that each of us has, that we develop our names over our lifetime.
I did not know the Roaches had the song based on that. That's pretty amazing. Well, that was worth the price of admission alone right there. That's great. Anything you want to elaborate on, Julie, in terms of this process, how people can understand it, like over the course of this day or this week of Lech Lecha, which, we're just at the start of. It seems to me that like one of the like a practice tip, or suggestion here is just like, over the course of the day, as we notice, just to notice the habits, right, would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, I always do it that way. And changing it up.
Don't even jump ahead. Changing it up is sort of feels a little bit like jumping ahead. First, just the noticing. That by itself is new. It is new in itself because you are noticing rather than just going through it kind of asleep to it.
Yeah, so thanks for that. Good.
Yeah, I was just going to say the noticing itself is new. And if we jump ahead to, and now I got to change it up, I'm basically shutting down the information already. I'm going into something else, but how about let's just notice it, notice the desire to change, but maybe you don't need to change it just yet. Just noticing. Just noticing brings you, like, switches you from being the child to the parent. When you see your child do something and you kind of know what's going through their head, but that different perspective all by itself is a new land.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks for that. Thanks for that caveat. That's really good. And I'm thinking about for myself in terms of my habitual definition of people. When I think about someone, really anyone, I already have a whole set of assumptions that inform how I think about them, for better or worse, as you were describing, whether I consider them annoying or not annoying, right? But this is who they are, and it is, as you said, like it was John McCransky yesterday,
Yeah.
was right. That was beautiful. It's talking about reducing. No, it's being reductive, reducing our perceptions to something that's a form. And really, I guess this is really an anti-idolatry practice in that
Yes.
sense, right?
Yeah.
We're smashing the idols,
Yes.
just like little Abraham in his father's shop, right? We're just walking around. Oh, that's a habit, right? That's reductive. That's reductive.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so important to do it for other people and yourself, back and forth all the
Right.
time.
Right.
When
Yeah.
when that, when that habitual thought comes through you, like, oh, I forgot that again, like, which is telling yourself, I'm someone who forgets.
hmm
You're also someone who remembers, or someone who cares, or someone who, and that might be a great thing to notice and add in, like add some
Yeah.
more names, because it's not just that. And when you find in your mind, you're labeling somebody, like when I think John McCransky says something like, when you have a problem to take care of, you see people as things to manage. They're
hmm
just they're just things to manage, and recognize that, okay, I need to manage something, but there's so much more. And maybe just coming up with those um, adjectives, other names, that would be a great practice for this week.
hmm
Just adding to that vocabulary. Um, and somebody asked in here, strategies to assist with the noticing. Um, I think that might be helpful. That'd be something that I would like to try, is just to add to my adjectives when I hear my mind coming up with a label for someone and something. They are, can I expand that? Can I grow their names?
hmm
To make
Um,
my
there's a
own mind more facile and nimble of coming up with other ways of thinking.
there's a question. We just have a minute, but there's a question from Susan Rubenstein about whether you have any tips or strategies to assist with the noticing of habits.
I think, just like Lori was saying, she noticed from a physical thing, from her hands clenching on something. Um, that might be a way to notice. Those are cues that our body gives us. Like, maybe also notice when you're holding your breath. Notice when
hmm
a hand is clenched or a jaw is clenched, or you just don't feel right, or you feel yourself ready to snap at somebody. Um, any of those things, that is your body asking you to notice. Um,
Those are all great. Those are all really helpful. And all right, we are at time, Julie. So we'll end here, but I want to thank you for lifting us all up and providing so much with the gifts that you have today, especially today with the yoga and the meditation. So we're really blessed to have you be an important teacher as part of this ongoing series of offerings. And I want to thank you for that personally and on behalf of all of us for all you bring to us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody.
Great to be with you all. Hope to see you tomorrow, same time, same station. Thanks, ID. Thanks, Valerie, for sponsoring our practice today.